We got our first look at the logo for the Hulu series Hellstrom recently, a Marvel Comics-based series that was not a casualty of Marvel TV being absorbed into Marvel Studios, unlike Ghost Rider, Spirits of Vengeance, and Adventure into Fear. In fact, Hellstrom will premiere during October 2020's Huluween event. So who is Hellstrom? Let's talk about him. But before we do, let me say thank you for watching JLS Comics, whether you've been with me for a while or it's your first time here. If you do enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe and share it so you and your friends don't miss the content I upload just like this every few days. Let's jump back to the story. Created by Herb Trimpe and Gary Friedrich, Daimon Hellstrom first appeared in 1973's first issue of Ghost Rider. See, the early 1970s is considered the beginning of what's called the Bronze Age of comic books, as comic code authority guidelines were relaxed thanks to some famous drug issues and more adult-themed stories were coming to light. Dracula, Swamp Thing, Blade, Conan the Barbarian were rapidly rising in popularity, as was the entire horror, arcane, mystical, and supernatural subgenre itself. Stan Lee wanted to ride this wave and introduce Satan into the stories, but Marvel's editor-in-chief, Roy Thomas, said, well, slow down, let's do his son first and see how people respond before we go full-on Lord of Hell, hence the rise of Hellstrom. An ancient demonic helllord in the Marvel Universe known as Satan came to Earth and took human form, calling itself Marduk Kyrios. In Marvel Comics mythos, there's a cabal of beings known as the Hellords that reign over hell itself, but they all take on the name Satan at various times, promoting the idea of one evil super beast. Kyrios was one of the beings from this quote-unquote Hell Committee, and there on the shores of Fire Lake in Massachusetts, in the United States, Marduk met Victoria Wingate. But this was not random. The Wingate Hellstroms for generations were occultists and Satanists. And when Victoria was young, her parents sold her to another group of occultists called the Chapel of Dresden. And this group carved the mark of the beast into her womb, marking her for her unholy conception. And so then, at Fire Lake Mansion, destiny and prophecy came to be as Marduk seduced Victoria, impregnating her, and thus Daimon Hellstrom was born, branded with a pentagram-shaped birthmark, a mark of the beast that foreshadowed what was to come. Just 6 months later, Marduk and Victoria had a second child, a daughter they named Satana. She'll be Anna in the Hulu series. She first appeared in Roy Thomas and John Romita Sr.'s Vampire Tales, issue number 2, in the fall of 1973. Their dark father taught them both the ways of dark magic and forbidden occult black arts. Satana took to these teachings and the ideology that came along with them, and she got closer to her father. Daimon, however, rejected them, taking the opposite trajectory of his sister, getting farther from his dad and actually closer to his mom. And after a while, Marduk revealed himself to Victoria, unveiling the truth that he was truly Satan incarnate, and that she had been the vessel with which he brought the son and the daughter of Satan into the world. When this realization came to her, Victoria went mad. She wrote a diary for her son and left it at the mansion just as she was committed to a psychiatric facility. When Victoria was taken away, Satana went to hell with her father while Daimon was placed in an orphanage. He would get to have brief, supervised visits with his mother, and during these visits she gave him a chain of ankhs, an ancient Egyptian mythological symbol, to protect him from his father, and she told him that a metal unique to hell called netheranium could weaken his father. Victoria died in a psychiatric hospital, never having recovered from her mental break. And when Daimon was 18, he inherited the mansion at Fire Lake and discovered his mother's diary that she'd written years prior, and that's how he learned of his true self. And when he read the diary, Daimon decided to confront his father. So there in the basement of Fire Lake Mansion, he accessed a portal to hell. He went to his father and said, nope, not doing it. He stole Satan's trident, made of the netheranium that his mother told him about, and this trident would suck Satan's powers into the wielder of the trident. And it's an event which gave birth to Hellstrom's dark soul. All that negative energy went into his being. He then took a 3 evil horse chariot and came back to Earth and sealed the portal of hell shut. Now he had super strength, the ability to cast magic, and flame-throwing abilities, but it wasn't any flame, it was soul fire. And so his adventures in a comic book called The Son of Satan, his first solo series, began. When he came back to Earth, he found that his pentagram birthmark was now inverted and was a channel for his dark soul. It was at this point in Daimon's life when he became actively interested in rooting out evil and demonic forces in the world, but first he had to read up on it. So he studied demonology, mysticism, dark magic. He went to the Harry Potter Defense Against the Dark Arts class. Well, not really that last one, but yes to the dark arts. In 1974, writer Steve Gerber had Hellstrom join up with the Defenders for the first time in Giant-Sized Defenders issue 2. And during his time with Defenders, Hellstrom changed his nom de guerre, his moniker, to Hellstorm. Very 90s, but very cool name. And with this team, he fought Dormammu and Satanish and Mephisto. These are incredibly powerful beings from the underworld and hell dimensions, and he reigned victorious over all of them. He also helped fight the Six-Fingered Hand, which was a group of demons which included not only Mephisto, but his father, Marduk Kyrios, who wanted to merge hell with earth. In the same Defenders run, Miracle Man stole Daimon's dark soul from him, and now as a mere mortal, he actually married Patsy Walker, the Hellcat, and the two became paranormal investigators in San Francisco, and they were often called upon by the West Coast Avengers when threats like Master Pandemonium arose. But Patsy realized that Daimon was going to die without his dark soul, so Patsy actually summoned Satan, called him back to save Daimon, who then put the dark soul back in him. But this realization, the sight of this all, caused Hellcat to go mad. And in a book called Hellstorm, as written by Warren Ellis, Patsy summoned Death Urge, effectively killing herself, and her soul was sent to Mephisto's dimension. Driven mad by this himself, Hellstrom, now calling himself Hellstorm, was able to finally defeat his father, rising to the unholy throne to wear the black halo and become Lord of Hell himself. Oh, and he's also the reason why Dr. Druid's no longer around. Daimon also became leader of the Hellfire Club. Instead of the White Queen, he was the White King, although the real person pulling the strings was Selene, an ancient mutant known as the Black Queen. Also around this time in Thunderbolts and Avengers annuals from the year 2000, Hellstrom brought Patsy Walker back to life, and she came with hellish superpowers, now fully the Hellcat. When Dormammu tried to invade the various realms of hell, Hellstrom teamed up with Hela, Mephisto, and Pluto to alter the realms of both Satanish and Mephisto, and because of that alteration, they stopped Dormammu from completely taking over the Nether Realms. Shortly after this, Hellstrom found himself in the Marvel Max imprint in New Orleans shortly after Hurricane Katrina devastated that area. The forces of darkness were apparently drawn to the death and destruction that the hurricane caused. And then in New Avengers, Doctor Strange was looking for Hellstrom, as he could possibly be a successor to the title of Sorcerer Supreme. His brother Voodoo became Sorcerer Supreme instead of Hellstrom, although it was short-lived because Brother Voodoo would soon die. Hellstrom was recruited by the vampire Morbius to join the Midnight Suns, along with Man-Thing, Jennifer Kale, and Werewolf by Night. Together, they had to beat back a zombie plague, and shortly after this, in an event called Chaos War, Hellstrom teamed up with the God Squad to defeat Chaos King. And then, after another Marvel event called Fear Itself, Hellstrom actually joined up with Hydra to create an army of monsters as part of the Department of Occult Armaments. This is when, during a story arc called Circle of Four, which starred Agent Venom, Red Hulk, Ghost Rider, and X-23, that the demons and monsters started showing up in Las Vegas, and they, of course, stopped them. Shortly afterwards, this lady named Victoria Hand, former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, became possessed, and she stabbed Hellstrom through the chest with a magical lance and murdered him. And it turned out that Daniel Drum, Brother Voodoo's brother, had possessed her and sought revenge for the death of Voodoo, who was helping to fight Dormammu at the beginning of this new Avengers title. I mentioned it a moment ago. But his soul went to see the Ancient One. And so Doctor Strange, now Sorcerer Supreme once again, said Hellstrom would be back pretty soon, and he did come back. Avengers Undercover number 5 revealed that he was now living in Bagalia, Hellstrom Manor, in a town called, appropriately, Helltown. In 2018, for a book called Spirits of Vengeance, Hellstrom teamed up with his sister, along with Ghost Rider Johnny Blaze and Blade as the Spirits of Vengeance. And then in 2019, Hellstrom joined up with Strike Force along with Angela, Wiccan, Blade, Winter Soldier, Monica Rambeau, and Spider-Woman. In terms of the Hellstrom show, it's going to be diving into the horror side of the Marvel Universe, something not really done before, as it was intended to spin off into the Hulu, taking on that entire aspect of the Marvel world, and it may still come to be, although it will take much longer to get there, but Ghost Rider, Spirits of Vengeance, Stake, Glyph, Howling Commandos, all of that could show up at some point. Hellstrom's backstory will be changed, even though we went through it here in detail. As the official description describes, Hellstrom is now a professor of ethics, and his sister is head of an auction house. Their mother is still institutionalized, so that matches, and they're fearful of their alleged serial killer father, who will return. We don't know if he's Satan yet or not. In the show, the two of them go moonlighting as exorcists to root out and fight evil, along with aid from the caretaker, who's a guardian of occult knowledge, Gabriella Rossetti, a Vatican representative, and Dr. Hastings, who watches over Victoria and her two children. For Hellstrom itself, Hulu's content chief, commented at the end of 2019. He said, "I've seen the first 4 episodes of that, and I'm really excited about it. It's definitely a different corner of the Marvel Universe in terms of its horror, and it's a really unique take on a horror show that has a unique family situation at the center of it." Well, I'm certainly intrigued. Are you excited or interested in the show? Are you even more excited now that you know all this backstory about the character? Leave a comment down below and we'll continue the conversation down there. For now, that's a wrap on this one, my friends. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you can be one of the first to know when I upload videos just like this one each and every week. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.